Are you ready to take a journey? Have you ever wanted to travel to the Maritimes? Well, pull out the dory, scrape the barnacles off the bottom, and get your oars. We are crossing over the bridge from Point à la Croix, a perfect name, from Quebec into New Brunswick. Behind us is the southern end of the Gaspé Peninsula. Down here stretches the most western end of the Gulf of St. Lawrence, south of St. Lawrence Seaway. Off to the south is the Bay of Fundy, with the largest tides in the world at 56 feet twice a day, and one of the most rugged and protected coastlines left on the eastern seaboard of North America. And because it's the Appalachians, we have Mount Carlton Provincial Park with the highest peak. So come with me, this is gonna be an amazing journey. We're gonna go shed a light on New Brunswick, but can it hold a candle to Quebec, that so far has earned top spot as the trucked up place to go? So stay tuned, here it comes. Let's go get trucked up in the Maritimes and visit New Brunswick. There's so much about this province that I didn't know, and I'm guessing that you didn't know either, so I'm going to share it with you. 80% of the place is forested. Along the entire Bay of Fundy, you've got the warmest ocean currents in all of Canada. I know what all you Americans are saying. Well, you live in the Arctic, buddy. Let me put it in perspective. The Bay of Fundy and the waters around New Brunswick are warmer than any spot north of the Carolinas. It's easy to forget how much of New Brunswick is close to the ocean. The entire population, on average, is less than 30 kilometers from the sea. Even though you'd think, well, it's landlocked, 60% of it is either pushed up against Maine or Quebec. But there's a large portion of this province that is jutting out into the sea. Now, one thing I have noticed, as soon as I crossed over that bridge, was a change in the infrastructure for electrification. It went immediately to 50 kilowatt, and not 4 or 5 or 6 units, 1, maybe 2. But I can see why, because it's a different reality right away inside New Brunswick. Why is that? I can drive almost everywhere within 100 kilometers, so I don't have to go these vast distances between chargers, so you don't need all of that infrastructure. I went in for breakfast and I forgot my charger plugged in. I thought I'd just do it to like 60, 70%. Got chatting because, well, I can't shut my mouth up. So we were blathering away. Well, I was blathering, she was listening. And I went out and I was at 85% charge. What was really cool is I stuffed 60 kilowatt hours for 18 bucks. Well, I like that about New Brunswick right away. They all work on flow. I've not had to download any apps for, since I left Manitoba, I haven't downloaded an app. Next stop, Grand Falls. Let's go check it out. I'm here in my truck, driving around, getting out, in my t-shirt. It's 23 degrees. One thing I would have loved to have shared with you is the colors, because I guess New Brunswick has quite a show as well, because not only do they have the maple and the birch and the aspen, but they got the large, but we've missed it. We're at the end of October. This whole date, my whole trip has been pushed back by a month because of the fires, because of the evacuations, because of moving, because of the house, because of problems that we had, so I had no choice but to pull it back. And I'm going to mention again, as I mentioned in the Quebec video, I can't get to Newfoundland. I can't get there before the snows and before I have to be back in British Columbia, and it is a long drive back, probably minimum 8 days. But I've already began the process of arranging an exclusive trip to Newfoundland, Labrador, and it's going to be more than expected. It's not just going to be a trucked up raiding trip. And I might have a couple tricks up my sleeve and a real nice surprise that I don't think anyone's ever done with an EV truck yet. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be in the spring. The moment the snows are gone and I can plan it out and make it happen, we're going to do it. We're actually coming through what I would call like foothills. I know the Appalachians were here. I've heard about how rolling and beautiful it was, how much hiking there was, how many actual mountains there were here. But you hear mountains from people who live in Florida. Change of plans. It's me. Come on. I'm getting bored. I don't want to just go to the hotel. I want to go check some stuff out. Mount Carlton Provincial Park's that way. And I was like, well, Simon, you can't just suddenly divert yourself 100 kilometers this way. But I decided I wanted to. But I couldn't find any chargers. One showed up. But the problem is Ford systems all don't talk to each other. They're so bad. I really want to say they're good, but they're not, because you got your Ford Pass app, which didn't find this charger. You've got the navigation that you can say, search for chargers. It didn't find it. But there's a new button that's called public charging. And I clicked on that and it found it. We're all Ford. But then it gets worse, because then on the public charging, it's got a little arrow. It's, click here to get directions. So I click on it, and it goes to the Ford navigation screen, and it's blank. No directions, none. What are you doing, Ford? My blood pressure's just, and my doctor's calling me up going, see, you ate the fromage. You mange the fromage. So I go to PlugShare. I thought maybe New Brunswick's off to a bad start. Maybe there's not a lot of these things. They're all over the place. So I canceled my hotel, and I'm gonna stay somewhere here. I don't know where the hell I am. Or I'm gonna go to Grand Falls, and I'm gonna try to find some place to stay. I don't care, even if it's a campsite, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna go to Carleton Provincial Park and see the highest peak in the Maritimes. So you gotta go look at it. All that fromage and all this stuff that I've been stuffing in myself, and I've been sitting in a truck for 5 weeks. My teeth falling out. Yeah, it's like I played at Chernobyl. I gotta go work off some fat. So I'm gonna go climb up a mountain, see what happens. I know, it's already 2. I gotta charge up, it's gonna make it like 3. It's a bad idea. It's pretty stupid, actually. I do it anyway. Oh, found a charger. I just hope they're feverishly working at this in some lab somewhere, trying to get this all worked out. I always picture some pasty-faced guy in a cubicle. Oh, I made the perfect software. But he actually doesn't even drive. Something like that. I mean, I'm being mean to Ford. But guys, come on. Your Ford Pass, your navigation, and your new public charging button should talk to each other. And when you press the button to go from the Ford public charging one to the map, it should go to the map with directions. We're heading due east. If we kept going, we'd hit the Atlantic Ocean. We'd be above the Bay of Fundy. It's already 5 to 3. The nice thing is, you can just do this on a whim already in New Brunswick because I know there's a charger as soon as I get back. So I kind of don't need to think about it, which is a really good start. That's how we want it. We want to just not give a crap what we're driving. I just jacked it up to 70%, didn't even go to 80. I went over to Subway. By the time I got back, I was like, oh, I charged more than I wanted because just to walk to Subway, buy it, and walk back. It'd be nice if they weren't 50 kilowatt, you know? It's twice as fast to have 100. So hopefully over time, New Brunswick can go, hey, you know what? Let's put these up to 100 now. Some of the things are popping up on my screen with Google saying they haven't been used in 2 weeks. So it's not there yet. I'm in the Maritimes and I'm looking at mountains. They're still a ways off. I wonder if my mileage calculator is correct, because I'm looking at those. I know enough about mountains to know that it's saying 21 kilometers away. I think that's for a turn, and then I think it puts me at the edge of the provincial park. I don't think it gets me to the mountains, which tells me that I may have not planned this well. That's so strange for me. That didn't quite work out as planned because for them, they consider this to be quite a strenuous hike, and they say it's a minimum 4 hours to do. You have to register by 11:30 and be up there before 3 to be able to make it back. I'm not allowed in, but in any case, that's the system, that's the way it is, and I have to respect that. They did give me an option that I could actually camp here overnight for free right here on the grass and then go do it in the morning. I'm seriously contemplating it because it'd be kind of fun. Okay, I changed my mind again. We're staying. We're gonna stay at the campground. We got a beautiful spot down by the lake. We're gonna go hiking up early in the morning. It's actually pretty impressive. I am so happy to know there's a mountain in the eastern part of Canada that's 800 meters in height. There's 3 others around it that are just under 800 meters. Let's go check out our campground. I think this definitely beats a shady, dirty, smelly motel room, because that's what I stayed in last night. Place smelled of mildew. It was pretty rough. This is 15 bucks. I finally get to use my tent again. It's currently 21 degrees and I'm on this beautiful lake. And up there's the first of the mountains. That's the little guy, 777 meters. The big one's behind us. It looks like because of the season, I'm the only guy in the whole campsite. There's like 120 stalls. So I got to pick the best one with a picnic table right on the lake. I've got a campsite up that's hidden in the woods, nice and protected. This is a pretty cool spot. I've got my fire pit, no wood. Don't want any, not having a fire tonight. I've got my tent pad, I've got my picnic table. The cost of some of the shittiest motels you've ever stayed in. Things are getting pretty crazy out there for travel. My whole thing was, I'm gonna camp all the way across the country. I camped in BC, I camped in Alberta and Saskatchewan. After that, I haven't touched the tent. It's gonna drop down to maybe a few notches above freezing tonight, but I got my Downy sleeping bag, I got my pillows. Couple things, New Brunswick has a very large population of black bears. No grizzlies. I'm not going to worry too much tonight, but when I go hiking tomorrow, I'll have my bear spray. When you go into these kind of places, have like GPS and a spot, and I don't have any of that shit. There's not even cell phone service here. You got no signal. You can go to the lodge, call my family and let them know I'm not dead. But even a bigger worry than bears is moose. More people are killed by moose than any other animal in New Brunswick, Newfoundland. I don't know if it's the same for Ontario and Quebec. Moose can get a little pissy. You know, they make a horse look like a midget, like they've got some kind of height restriction. You know, they can't fit in the average garage. They take up double spacing in parking lots. They're freaking huge. And if you decide to piss one off, they'll stomp all over you until you stop moving. Forget the antlers. I don't think we have to worry about any of that. If you're coming to a place like this, you've got to be aware, just like in the Rocky Mountains, just like in the Selkirks where I live. And we're going to get up and see what kind of views we can get off the top of the tallest mountain in New Brunswick. See you in the morning. Had a lovely sleep. Actually got like probably the most sleep I've had in ages, because you got nothing to do once it gets dark. And then I packed up my tent and everything this morning, got up at 5:45, made myself a tea because I didn't have any freaking coffee, no food because I didn't plan any of this, and of course the provincial park doesn't have anything, and it's still pitch black out. Well, we'll just drive to the trailhead. Got there just before 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's pitch black out. So then I thought, well, I'll get my little backpack ready. I probably don't need it because it's, you know, it's considered an epic hike here in New Brunswick, but where I come from, this would be like a dog walk. You know, I'll get it packed together anyway, just in case I don't know the trail. It's always good to be safe. And it's still pitch black out. I thought, you know what? Let's just go. Can't be that bad. It's all stumps and rocks. The trail's pretty rough for their only major mountain trail in New Brunswick. I got my handy dandy light. I can always just use that if I need it. And I did for about the first 15 minutes. And I can kind of see where I'm going now. I got rain about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had to dry off the tent before I packed it today. So I got the rain jacket just in case. I'm hoping we get views and we don't get socked in. We'll see how it goes. Well, we've got company. I'm walking along the trail, and I suddenly realize there's these really big tracks in the mud. Fresh. It's moose. And then I hear some crashing up ahead, and it just so happens that this moose is using the trail. I'm staying back. He's quite a distance, but if I was a moose in this kind of brush, I'd be using the trail too with antlers like that. We're hiking with company. Yeah, we're starting to get some views. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Of course, I left the parking lot at 7:40. It's not even 9:30 yet. I'm about half a kilometer from the summit. We've come up from down there, and you can see we've got pretty nice views, and we're coming along this little ridge here, and then we're going to go up there. We're on the fall summit. Yeah, there it is. There's the fall summit. There's our surroundings, looking pretty nice. And how do I know it's the fall summit? Well, there's that. Way to go! Trucked up guys and gals, you did it. You summited. You made it to the tallest peak of the Maritimes. You're on top of Mount Carlton, and you didn't even break a sweat. We got the summit back over there, which is pretty cool. And we got a lake way over in the distance. All the Appalachians for as far as you can see, going all the way to the States. That's coming up in the east. It's our sun, so our ocean's that way, which means Maine and Quebec are likely somewhere over there, I'm thinking. But you can see, I mean, they're lower. These are older mountains, but they're mountains, and it's pretty awesome. And way back down there, you can see our false summit that we were on. And then I'm gonna mosey on down as fast as I can. We're gonna find the quickest way down so we can go have some frickin' brekkie, because I'm hungry. I get back from my hike, I get into the community that I left earlier. I asked Google and then I asked Ford, hey, find me some restaurants or cafes. What did pop up is not anywhere I want to eat. So I started driving up the road. I think I'm just gonna go for Grand Falls, but I'm so hungry. And as I'm driving out of St. Quentin, on the side of the road is this big, huge operation called Bangkok Thai Food Truck. And it's not like a little, you know, food truck. The whole kit and caboodle. He's running a restaurant basically out of this semi. It is my favorite. Drunken noodles, super spicy. And while I stuffed my face, I charged up here. They're everywhere. They're 50 kilowatt. I'm not a fan, as you know, but I'm also a fan with frequency and use case. If you notice, they're New Brunswick power, like back in BC. Learn something Alberta, learn something Saskatchewan, learn something Manitoba, even Ontario. This is just another example of what Quebec's done, what BC's done. So we're gonna charge up. I only been plugged in for like 8-10 minutes. I just came back with my noodles, stuffed my face, and I'm gonna go. I think a lot of people would be surprised, I know I am, with how much farmland there is in New Brunswick, and this is potato country. You always think about PEI being potatoes, but I've seen so many signs about potatoes, pomme de terre. And the reason it's pomme de terre and not potato, keep in mind that New Brunswick is Canada's first true bilingual province. For hundreds of years, everyone's been speaking both languages fluently. This is l'Acadie. These are the Acadians. This direct link to Louisiana, you know, Nova Scotia with l'Acadie, and here with l'Acadie. It was the Acadian expulsion. All of the Acadians were rounded up by the British after the battle where we stood on the plains of Abraham together in Quebec, when we did the Quebec video right here. The Acadians were rounded up by the British and sent to the 13 states and largely to Louisiana. These are the l'Acadie. These are the Acadians right here. These are the Cajuns. McCain Foods right now is cooking a whole bunch of potatoes. There's a massive potato processing factory right over there, and the smoke belching out of it, that's because they're making potato chips. And I'm hoping that in all of that, somebody knows how to make a coffee, because there's not been a single place I can find a latte. A definite strike against you, New Brunswick. But the good news is I am pulling up right now to Electrify Canada chargers, super fast chargers, right here. I sure love it when things are done right. People always complain about the effects of the grid. We hear about how electric vehicles are going to tax the grid. In one tiny little space, what's Electrify Canada doing? They got a whole series of solar panels on top of their chargers helping offset the production of the electricity for charging. And we're seeing this all over the place. I'm off to Fredericton, which is, you know, well over 200 kilometers away. It's saying I've got 260 of range. It's a little tight for what I typically like, but every time I've been throwing in these numbers with Ford, it's been going really conservative. And I don't know if somebody's been thinking over there or listening over there about giving that cushion. I don't know if that's the way to show it, but that seems to be what's happening, because before I put in my location of Fredericton, it said I had 326. And I still haven't been able to find a place that sells a frickin' latte. You know, I'm just talking macchiato, you know, Americano, latte, just something other than, hey, you want a cup of coffee? New Brunswick, come on, get with the times. There's different things you can do with coffee beans. Interesting, exciting things. There's a word that you've got to discover. It's totally novel. It might freak you out a bit, but it's called espresso. Say it with me now. Let's try a new word, okay? Espresso. Not like the Americans say, espresso, you guys. It's not espresso. It doesn't have an X in it. And the moment one of you finds out what it is, and then you go and try it, and then you have it in different types of ways of making it, you'll never go back. It's kind of like driving an EV truck. Give it a try. I couldn't help myself. There was a little pull-off in a place called Perth County, Perth Andover. And it was in the middle of the Appalachians. It looked quite quaint, and it was off the road a little bit, but it had a supercharger, 100 kilowatt with New Brunswick power. I thought that's my first 100 kilowatt, even though I just filled up only 80, 100 kilometers before, and I got more than enough to get there. And they had a cafe. You couldn't find it. It's like a roastery and a little pub and a specialty brewery, and it's just cool inside. And it was so awesome. It was just on the river, running right through Perth over the bridge, and it was picturesque. Walked in and all the locals were lined up at the pub, and I walked up and you had a sign I just noticed out front said roastery. I drove by it trying to find something other than Timmy's, and it was when I gave up and I was driving back after I was about to leave that I saw roastery right on our window. One of the best lattes, and she had oat milk. We're not stopping in Fredericton because I've got a hotel booking in Moncton that I've got to get to. Now I'm going to stay an extra night in Moncton, and we're going to go to other places before we head over to Nova Scotia. It's 4 hours of driving ahead, and we're doing 70 miles an hour all the way. They got a beautiful highway, and because it's divided highway, Blue Cruise kicked in, and it's holding at 110. Hopefully it doesn't do the flippy floppy thing, but there's not a lot of clover leaves, so it shouldn't be reading the exit signs, I'm hoping. We'll see how it goes. I pulled off the highway because I've got to adjust my GoPro. So I pull over at this Irving's, and sure enough, like every 50 kilometers is one of these. And then right over behind this building is 12, you can probably just barely see them, Tesla superchargers, but they're the 150 kilowatt, which are Tesla only. Only the V3s and higher are reserved for NACS adapter use. And then there's this, I believe this one is a 50. No, actually it's 100. Holy smokes, I could actually grab some here, but I'm not going to. And I'm also changing my plans, of course, because we got to get all the way across this province and really celebrate it. So we're heading into Fredericton. Oh yeah, we are. Man, they are just knocking it out of the park here in New Brunswick. If you're wanting to travel to this area, if you live in Maine, New York, you're wanting to come up from the States and come and experience this Maritime province, or you want to bring your electric truck up here and you want to bring a boat, you want to go do some camping, you want to take the canoe or the sea kayaks and go along the rugged coastline, go and experience this place. You can do it any time of day, any time of night, no problem at all. And I want to put this right here into perspective. I just came from a province, Quebec, with over 8.5 million people. It's the second most populous part of this country. The entire province of New Brunswick has a tenth of that population of 800,000 people. And yet, they've got a comparable EV charging infrastructure. That's New Brunswick. Fredericton, which is the capital, doesn't have any Tesla superchargers for non-Tesla users. Very interesting. One of their Tesla stations is temporarily closed. Don't know why that is, but it's a 150 anyway, I can't use it. And there's not a lot of choices. It's 5 o'clock at night already. I've already been up a mountain today, as you know. We are at 90 kilometers left in range. Could definitely get through Fredericton to the next one, but again, I'm right here. This is 100 kilowatt, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers from the last one I stopped at that I didn't even use. This one I don't need to use, but I want to go check everything out that I can. And then we're off to Moncton. Got some kind of major congestion-y thing going on over here. I think it's just called rush hour in Fredericton. Here we're at a major junction, so we can go to Edmundston, we can go to Fredericton, we can go to St. John, we can go to Moncton, and because it's a major junction, New Brunswick Power put in 3 100 kilowatt units where they're needed most. This road's been busy since I've arrived. Everything's been thought out really, really well as far as that waypoint infrastructure is concerned. And sure enough, I'm seeing the 100s exactly where you'd want to have faster charging speeds. And the 50s where you don't have to go very far at all to get from one community to the next. Really well laid out. We're going to try to get some filming done in Fredericton. I'm hoping that you and I can see it, but we are after 5. We're closing in on 5:30. The clouds are rolling in. It looks like we're going to get some storms tonight. We are in downtown Fredericton, but it's pretty dark, and I got to make my way for Moncton, so we're going to go for it. I was going to stay here for a bite to eat, but it looks like I'm going to be doing something takeout. It's a small city center compared to a lot of the cities we've just come from. The population here isn't large. There's a lot of old houses though, but many of them are a very different style than Quebec. Not a lot of stone, but really that Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, Maritime feel to the houses, usually 3 stories high. Many of them have the turret on the top. There's some very beautiful architecture here. It's too bad we can't wander around a little bit, but again, we got to keep going. Good morning, everybody. We are in Moncton, New Brunswick. I think they have lattes here. I like Moncton, but you know what I like more about Moncton? Right down just this one street are 3 sets of DC fast chargers. I was over at the Petro-Can. Petro-Can's doing its regular Petro-Can things, not working. They really got to work on servicing their machines. They've got them in the right locations, they've got the right speeds, but they never work. Petro-Canada, crap. So then on top of that, it even gets worse because I managed to get the one working, and it's up to 350 kilowatt. These are supposed to be ultra fast chargers. Of course, my truck can't handle 350, but it charged at 31. The only downside to these is, of course, New Brunswick Power is using flow. They're very reliable, they always work, but here again, each one of these is supposedly 100 kilowatt. You'll never get 100 kilowatt. Even go onto PlugShare and take a look. They get 10 ratings because they're so reliable, and you'll notice every single time, 70 kilowatt, 72 kilowatt, 75 kilowatt. Some vehicles get up to 80. A little bit of a setback, but I don't want to sound too bitchy. I don't want to sound too disrespectful because they work great and they're everywhere. And also one more amazing thing, $20 for an hour. At the speed it's charging at, I got here 9:45. At 10:35, my truck shows it'd be filled to 90%. I want more of that. The only place I paid tons of money, Electrify Canada. Oh yeah, Electrified Canada and Tesla will suck you dry and call you dusty. Okay, let's go get a coffee. This is awesome. I'm here at Taylor, Ford, and Lincoln Sales in Moncton. Total step ahead, way ahead of the curve here. They just installed these and they're 120 kilowatts a side, and right now, courtesy, they're free, just to get people to start using them. Man, talk about a dealership doing everything right. I am so impressed. Just talked to I believe one of the managers or owners, not quite sure, But you know what? What a positive attitude. This cost them a lot of money. This is like $1 million right here. This is not cheap. You've got 6 chargers. One thing I did nail him for though, and he had a good laugh because he hadn't even thought of it, was a pull-through charger for a trailer, for a boat. Selling F-150 Lightning trucks, he says, he goes, oh man, you're right, you can't pull through a trailer. Very common thing. But this is freaking awesome. And these are just online. What's funny is they don't even show up in the Ford network yet. They don't show up in any network yet. It's a step in the right direction. A lot of dealerships aren't doing it. They're going to pay the price because ones like this are going to get rewarded because anybody can come and use these. This is going to be so positive for the entire EV community, EV trucks especially, and they're not slow. Behind me is Moncton. You can already see all that red coming off. That's the earth being dragged out into the sea as the tide comes in and the tide goes out. You can see the ridges here. That's going to drop right down till it's bone dry and then come back up. So it's quite epic, the amount of change in the tides. We're going to move on now. Head for some tidal epic scenery. We're at a special little place right now. It's getting a little chilly out. Well, actually, it's more the wind, and we're coming down to Oceanside. We're about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the lowest tide. We're gonna go down and take a look at an epic little spot. You've seen it in all your postcards and everything about the Maritimes. Always shows up. So it's gonna be kind of cool to see it for real. We are down at the ocean floor access. And as you can see, it's quite stunning. The tides come all the way up here, but you get an idea of how epic the effects of these tides are down here. These are Hopewell rocks. We're about a little under half an hour away from low tide. Where I'm standing right now will be completely underwater. You know, we're gonna have that tide come up by about 18 meters, 56 feet. You can see here the actual growth on the side here because all of this is underwater. It's intertidal pool area. And you can see the effect of that erosion from the tides coming in and out. They've got a huge park basically built on this. And I'm thinking, well, eventually the park's going to shut down because all of this will be eroded away by the ocean currents. But it is something to see while we're here. You get a red or brown sea here because it just gets churned and churned from the tides coming in and out. But also all that nutrient makes the Bay of Fundy and this whole coastal region of New Brunswick teeming with life because of all the nutrient that's stirred up. It keeps a lot of little critters quite happy. Let's pop over to the other side and see what we can see. We might get a little bit of silhouetting here, but you'll get the sense of how massive these structures are. I'm just going to walk underneath here. You can basically park your house. Quite beautiful. You get a real sense of how immense and powerful these tides are. There we go, the Bay of Fundy behind us. Way over on the other side of the Bay of Fundy is Nova Scotia, and off that way is PEI. Pretty cool. And we're gonna go over there. Definitely a tourist spot, and you know what? You don't even have to worry about bringing your EV up here because it's only about 45, 50 kilometers from Moncton. So, you know, you're looking at 20, 25 miles max. And in the parking lot, for those of you who want to make the point about level 2s, if you come here, when you get your pass, well, they've got level 2 chargers just sitting in the parking lot waiting for you to just charge up to full while you sit here. Now you saw in the parking lot back at Hopewell Rocks, level 2s. I passed 2 little inns just along this country road, level 2s. Public, available, you don't have to stay at the inn, just there. Many of them are free, some of them you have to swipe. That's how you do it. When you get to your destinations or you're staying at a place for any period of time, level 2s. And they're a very inexpensive means of letting people charge up. So often, the lodge doesn't even notice the increase in their electricity bill from offering that service. But others, where they have it on their property, but they're not wanting to pay for it, then they just have them charge. I'm really impressed. I cannot believe the availability, and I also just can't believe the countryside here. As I move along the shores, I've got the Appalachians rising up off to the north, and then they come around and go down toward the ocean and the Bay of Fundy. We are running out of some daylight. I always try to pack in as much as I can for you in every single day, and I thought, you know, I keep hearing about maple syrup all the time from Quebec, but really, there are tons of maple syrup farms here and bee farms, like honey farms and farms. I talked to the little shuttle guy who brings people up and down from the area that I walk down, and he says they can get down to -15, -20 Celsius in January. But by February, it's melting off. For the past 3 years, they haven't had any snow. So it's giving you an idea of, number one, the warming trends. They're quite dramatic here in New Brunswick. It's a little scary. But also, I just passed Waterside Winery. This is a very temperate climate because of those incredibly warm waters off the Bay of Fundy. There's something that I heard all the time when I cycled across Nova Scotia, and I'm hearing it here, a slight modification. If you ask for directions to anything in New Brunswick, you get, well, it's just up the hill there. In Nova Scotia, it's just down the way. There's a lot of hills. And every single time I followed those directions just up the hill, I should have charged first. They got a strange idea what just up the hill is, but everything is technically just up a hill. Test it. Yeah. I can sniff them out like a bloodhound. Octopus Garden Cafe here in Alma. You know what I'm getting? Sorry, but you're just gonna have to stand by and wait until we get to Fundy. This is important. In about 4 hours, those boats are gonna be level with the dock. That's how deep these tides are. I've seen the boats actually strung up where you don't have this edge right here, so you're actually getting the full effect of the tide. And the boats are sitting down about another 10 or 15 feet from where these ones are here, because these ones are actually elevated up from the actual tide because they're inside this little drainage of this river. You can see actually the water line on the other side of the dock, and all of these boats will be back floating. It's always great when I don't have to think about anything. I can just drive all over the place and discover stuff and not have to worry. But it's a smaller province too. Smaller province means I can do all these things in a day or two. Somewhere like Quebec is, I mean, how many New Brunswicks fit inside Quebec? Oh my God. Pardon me, I'm backing up to film this. We're going up to Cape Enrage, and I can understand why people like coming to this spot. Right in the sun, one GoPro. Help me out, folks, I need another GoPro. I can't do it. Like my wrap-up video on this entire trip, it's pretty nuts, but I'd love to share more of what I'm doing here with you, because what I'm doing right now is freaking epic. But one thing we can't do today, because of how late in the season it is all the parks here. We're at the gate and it is closed. I'm gonna find so many things from this point forward closed and preparing for winter. I'm very fortunate that I'm getting a chance to do all that I'm doing. After making my way through Bay of Fundy National Park, which is somewhere I wanted to hike, but it was too late, and I'm trying to get through to Nova Scotia and PEI, so I've got to really watch the time. But I did make it at night, last night, to St. John, and that's basically getting very close to driving into the United States, into Maine. And again, there's absolutely no issue going anywhere, night, day. There's not any point where I felt any pressure at all or any thought towards charging. Time to make a call, and it's an easy one to make. New Brunswick's getting the trucked up stamp of approval. You want to come here and basically travel the whole province and really celebrate all the cool things that you can do in New Brunswick. You can do it with an EV truck, and you can do it towing and hauling, because you're going to have everything you need here. Some downsides: the capital, Fredericton, has very few chargers for the population, and there's no pull-through fast chargers in the entire province. Haven't seen one, so that's a problem pulling a boat or pulling a travel trailer. But the campsites are welcoming here, although they are closed, so pay attention to your schedule and your season, because it does make a big difference traveling here. It's almost there on every front. It just needs to tweak some things, and they're set. So congratulations to New Brunswick. And with that, I want to thank all of you for sticking around and watching another Canada-wide trucked up coffee stop tour. And you know where we're off to next. Right down this highway to a province that's only years away from potentially becoming an island. If you love this video, please support the channel in any way that you can. I really appreciate it. Once again, thanks for watching.